Okay.
What's up, top 10
So we are reacting to, not this one, here, let me find it. Scary animations. True horror story. No, that's not it. It is not that one. 12 stories animated. There it is. So yeah, let's get into it. Neighbor.
I laid poolside, perfecting my tan for the start of school next month. Mom was in the kitchen, cooking her famous fettuccine alfredo, and Dad was on the way home with a movie from Redbox. My life was perfect, but everything was about to change with the arrival of a new neighbor next door. He was a former police officer, probably mid-50s, possessed a firm drill sergeant-like tone, but was very friendly and talkative. Initially, he seemed like a good fit for the neighborhood. He was cordial, always made an effort to wave or say hi, and the presence of someone with a law enforcement background provided a sense of security. But everything began to unravel quickly, and the catalyst seemed to be me. My neighbor took a sudden and keen interest in me. Whenever I went outside, I could feel his eyes examining me. He would always wander over and try to start conversations with me, but as soon as he heard or saw my parents, he would leave. He asked me if I had any social media accounts. When I lied and said no, he asked if he could take a picture of me and proceeded to snap a pic before I could reply. I felt completely unnerved and frightened about his
Pervert alert.
intentions for me. For all I knew, that we could have a murderer or pedophile living a mere feet from our home. I knew I had to delve deeper, so one night I aimed my telescope at his window, and what I saw only amplified the alarm bells going off in my
There's pictures of girls. Oh my god.
head. The man was fixated on the picture of me on his phone, and I could even see a small stack of photos on his nightstand, a young girl's image on top. My blood ran cold, as this all but confirmed my fear. He must be a pedophile. The next night, I saw him sneakily rummaging through our trash can. I watched in horror and disbelief as he removed my used tampon, got into his
Ew, that is
car, and sped off in the night. This was the final straw. I knew that in the morning, I would have to alert my parents and get in contact with the police. And next morning, I awoke to the sound of police sirens and a loud commotion
What a coincidence.
downstairs. I hopped out of bed and saw my parents being taken away in handcuffs. I started screaming and crying as I rushed towards the door, but I was stopped by the neighbor. With a horrified expression, he muttered, "I'm so sorry. Those aren't your real parents. You were kidnapped and missing the past 14 years. DNA test confirmed it."
Wait, what? That was twisted and creepy, and I get more confuzzled than when my teacher said I made it into AG. What? So wait. Oh my god, wait, they've been missing? She was missing the whole time. I thought he was like a pervert. So I'm like, oh my god. Oh, that's why he took the. Oh my god. That's so cool. Or creepy.
It was on Friday.
Cool. It's not cool, it's creepy. That's creepy, but this one's called Creepy Ball.
Friday night, I was finishing the last deliveries that I worked for. I was headed to the bar that I would usually go to every night to grab a glass of wine. I noticed there was a new bar that had recently opened, a kilometer away from the usual bar, so I decided to try it out. When I arrived and pushed the entrance door, I noticed something very weird. There were only 5 people inside, and they were all dressed in Halloween costumes, like vampire, ghost, werewolf, witch, and black magician. I felt really uncomfortable because I was the only ordinary person there, and also because Halloween was over 2 days ago. I was still awkwardly standing there blocking the entrance when all of a sudden, all the people started staring at me as if I had done something terribly wrong. I made my move and walked over to the bartender. The bartender looked almost like a real executioner. He asked me rudely in a gruff voice, "What do you want to sacrifice, blood or flesh?" Well, that creeped the hell out of me, but I thought this was his way of taking a Halloween order of alcohol. So I requested to him, "1 glass of blood, please." He turned around, grabbed a wine bottle, and poured it into a wine glass. Later, he opened a drawer and took out a black satanic pentagram necklace. He dipped the necklace 3 times while muttering something into my drink. To my surprise, the wine turned black in color, and he placed the glass on the table and told me to drink it in 1 shot. I was really thirsty at that moment, so I took the glass and drank it completely. It was quite strong, and my vision was slowly starting to blur.
Whoa, that took a crazy turn. Who is satanic?
I paid the bartender and left the bar immediately. While I was walking, I started to feel dizzy, and my vision was worsening. I wasn't focused on where I was going, as my mind was in a vision of all the faces of all the people I saw in that bar, maniacally laughing and giggling at me. All of a sudden, I had already arrived home during my vision. At first, I was relieved, but when I closed the door behind me and turned around, I knew that I was in the wrong house. It was completely abandoned, cold, gloomy, and barely lit with the rays of moonlight. I tried to open the door, but it was totally locked. Right when I was going to run into the door to break it, I heard the upper wooden ceiling was creaking, as if someone was up there walking slowly, step by step. I was really afraid as I had no weapon to protect myself. I tried to call 911, but had no reachable service to call. My only option was to go upstairs and find my way out. I carefully walked upstairs and reached the top. To my left was a dead end, but to my right I saw a hallway with 3 doors on each side. I opened the doors one by one to find nothing but dark, empty rooms, and no way to escape. Finally, when I opened the 6th door, I saw a pentagram was drawn on the floor with 5 candles around, touching all 5 corners of the star. This sent me back to where the bartender dipped a necklace with the same symbol into my drink. And there was a figure floating vertically right above the symbol below. But the light provided by the candles was not enough for me to figure out what was floating. Accidentally, I dropped my phone on the old wooden floor, which created a loud sound. The figure was slowly advancing to my direction. I quickly backed off and hit my head against a wall behind. That figure, I can't forget it. My body was completely paralyzed when I saw that the same bartender at the bar was this guy. He was still dressed as an executioner and faced my powerless body. To make matters worse, the doors of the empty room started opening on their own, one by one, and out came all of the 5 people I saw at the bar. They were all laughing at me to the point I passed out. Then I heard silence. Then I woke up and realized that I was in a hospital. I asked one of the nurses what was going on. She told me that a group of teenagers saw me walking out of the forest and then walking to the abandoned house. They tried calling out to me, but I didn't respond, nor look at them. Then the group saw me entering the house, and when they tried to open the door, it was locked. And so they called 911 thinking that I was trapped in that house. 30 minutes later, the police staff arrived and broke open the door and found me unconscious lying on the floor. They brought me into the hospital and were trying to investigate what had happened in that abandoned house. Later, I told police officers the whole story when they came to ask, but they didn't seem to believe me. While some of them were laughing, thinking that I was making it up. After that, I went home and directly went to sleep. The next morning, I hurried to the bathroom because I had to vomit very badly. And after I did, I noticed that my vomit was black. To forget things, I tried taking a cold shower. And when I was showering, I felt a sharp sting on my back. Then, when I changed the water temperature from cold to warm, the sting started to feel even more painful. I turned back with my head, barely making it to see behind. Then I was shocked for life. I had the same satanic pentagram carved on my back, which was surely done by a sharp object. From then on, I never went to a bar again.
All I have to say is just, just, just life, lessons learned. I don't know what to say to that. On the scary scale, I'd rate it about a 7-ish on the first one. Wasn't really scary. It was just like a twist. Probably like a 3. If I'm being honest here. Or maybe a 4, but that was not scary at all, the first one, because, like, I don't know, it just wasn't scary. Like, yeah, it just wasn't. So, yeah, guys, I hope I see you next time on Kinley's Vlogs and more. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Comment down below what you thought of the first and second one. I thought they were just... The second one, I will give it like a 7.5, maybe an 8. It was like pretty creepy. I mean, yeah. The first one was just like, it's kidnapping. Like, yeah, those are not good, but like, let's be honest, they happen like every day. So, yeah. Okay, guys, I guess I'll see you next time after this one story is over, and then I'll see you guys next time. So I'm not gonna do my intro.
My name is Kate. I'm 22 years old, and about 3 years ago, I got a job working at Sam's Club.
Hold on. This sounds like a man, and that looks like a girl. Am I the only one? Like,
His friend Mimi, who worked there before me, was the one who suggested that I apply there. Her job was to work on the cash register. Mine was to stock shelves and keep certain areas tidy. One day, a young man entered the store and started to make conversation with me. I would say he was around 25 years old. After some friendly chit-chat, he eventually said that I looked like a model, and he has contacts within the modeling agencies. Honestly, I didn't believe a word he said. He was nice, but I wasn't about to fall for this. After many attempts of trying to persuade me to go with him to meet somewhere, to meet some contacts, he eventually gave up. He didn't leave the store, however, because about 5 minutes later I noticed him talking to Mimi as she was working on the cash register. I was hoping she wouldn't fall for it, but unfortunately she did. At the end of our shift, we spoke about what the guy had said, and Mimi really believed that the guy could get her modeling gigs. I told her not to meet him, and she said she wouldn't. About a week later, she didn't turn up to work and wasn't answering calls or texts. In fact, she kind of went missing. It was about a week until I finally heard from her. She was in a hospital. Mimi had met up with the guy from the store. She wouldn't say what happened in detail, but what she did tell me was disturbing enough. She met up with the guy from the store in a very old rundown apartment. There were 2 very large men, one skinny old guy. She was attacked. 2 men drugged her, and she fell unconscious. And when she woke up, she was in extreme pain. The men she met up with knocked her out and took all of her belongings. The police said that she was lucky. I'm sorry that Mimi had to go through all of that, but thankfully she wasn't killed. But I'm glad it wasn't me that got lured into the man's sick plan.
okay, guys. That's all for today. See you next time on Kinley's Vlogs and more. Leave it a like, subscribe. I really don't care. Bye, guys.